In the middle of a desolate field, under the fading sunlight, a tiny German shepherd puppy stood trembling, only a few weeks old, lost and hopeless. It had no idea that darkness was closing in. A dozen crows with wings as black as blades, eyes as cold as death, ready to make it their next prey. No place to run, no one to save it, just a few breaths away from the brink of life and death. But just when all hope seemed to fade, a miracle happened. A colossal figure charged forward, bringing strength and courage to change everything. This is not just a story of survival, but a touching journey of a small pup finding a family and a lone warrior rediscovering the light in his heart. Stay until the very end, because this story will make you believe that even in the deepest darkness, there is always a light waiting to guide the way. Under the fading sunlight of a late afternoon, a tiny German shepherd puppy, only a few weeks old, stood alone in the middle of a barren field. Its small body trembled, not from the cold wind brushing through the dry grass, but from the natural frailty of a creature too young to face the vast world. Its fur, soft as silk, a blend of light brown and black, quivered slightly as the wind blew through, while its floppy ears twitched, trying to catch any sound in the suffocating silence. It was too small to understand the lurking danger, too weak to run, and too innocent to realize that fate was about to strike with a cruel test. Then the sky darkened. A sudden black cloud drifted past, carrying ominous figures. Dozens of crows appeared, circling above, their sleek black wings slicing through the air like sharp knives. Their cries, dry, shrill, like a warning, echoed across the field. The puppy looked up, its round, clear eyes reflecting the swirling black wings above. It tilted its head, puzzled, unable to comprehend what those creatures were or why they stared at it with such cold, empty eyes. Then, one by one, they descended. The first landed a few meters away on the dry grass, its talons scraping against the ground with a soft rustle. Then another and another, until they formed a perfect circle, slowly closing in on the little pup. Their sharp beaks gleamed under the weak sunlight, like blades ready to tear apart flesh. Their glossy black eyes, devoid of emotion, locked onto the pup, hunters who had already chosen their prey. The puppy let out a small, weak whimper and took a step back, its clumsy legs stumbling over the dry grass. Its tail tucked between its legs, a natural reflex, even though it didn't fully understand what fear was. But the crows did not stop. One hopped closer, its claws scratching against the dry earth with a soft screech. Another flapped its wings, sending a cold gust of wind as its sharp cry pierced the air like a warning. The circle tightened, each crow moving with eerie precision, as if they had rehearsed this hunt 100 times. The puppy whimpered again, this time with a hint of panic. It turned, searching for an escape, but there was none. The crows had blocked every path. No one was there, no sign of another living being in the vast field to rescue it. The crows began spreading their wings, their chilling cries merging into a symphony of death. The largest among them, a giant crow with sleek black feathers and eyes as red as blood, soared upward, circling once before diving straight at the pup like an arrow. The puppy squeezed its eyes shut, its tiny body curling up, bracing for the inevitable moment. But just then, a deafening roar shattered the air. A massive figure stormed into the field from the distance, as fast as a raging tempest, carrying an unstoppable force of power and fury. The world erupted into chaos. The crows screamed in terror, their cries no longer threats but pure panic. Black wings flapped frantically as a fully grown German shepherd stormed into the flock like a raging tempest. Its deep brown fur glistened under the sunlight, marked with old scars, the remnants of countless past battles. Its lips curled back, revealing sharp, gleaming fangs, and with a powerful leap, it caught a crow midair, its jaws snapping shut with a brutal force that shattered the attacker's wing. The crow let out a horrifying shriek, mixing with the growl of the larger dog as it flung the broken bird to the ground like a discarded toy. The remaining crows tried to regroup. One, braver than the rest, dove toward the large dog, but in the blink of an eye, it was struck down by the guardian's crushing bite. The perfect coordination of the murder crumbled. Panic took over. Wings beat wildly as they scattered, abandoning the field in a frenzy of desperate flight. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, silence returned. The large dog stood still, chest rising and falling with heavy breaths, its sharp golden eyes scanning the sky to ensure no further threats lingered. Then, slowly, it turned its gaze downward, toward the tiny, trembling pup at its feet. The little one looked up, round eyes wide with astonishment, its small body still frozen in shock. The large dog studied it for a long moment, its expression firm but carrying the faintest hint of gentleness. "This place is not safe for you," it said, voice deep and steady like stone, though not unkind. The puppy blinked, hesitated, then took a small step forward. The large dog did not stop it. It stood like a living statue, golden eyes never leaving the tiny figure curled up before it. The pup's fur was still soft, streaked with dust from its aimless wandering. Its legs trembled, tail curled tightly beneath its belly, a tiny heart hammering inside its frail chest. It didn't know who this giant was, only that he had appeared out of nowhere and saved its life. The large dog took a slow step forward, every movement controlled, radiating strength. "You shouldn't be here alone," it said, voice low but carrying an unexpected warmth. The pup flinched at the sound, ears pressing flat against its head, but its eyes never left its savior. The older dog exhaled, breath misting in the cool evening air. Its sharp gaze swept across the vast field, now empty except for the gentle whisper of the wind through the grass. The crows were gone, but the sun was sinking lower, dragging shadows and unseen dangers with it. The distant howls of prairie wolves, the rustling of hidden predators in the underbrush. It turned back to the pup. "Where is your pack?" Its voice was firm, questioning, seeking the origins of the fragile creature before it. The pup lowered its head, ears twitching, but did not answer. Not because it didn't want to, but because it didn't know. It didn't remember where it had come from. Didn't know how long it had been lost. The large dog huffed, murmuring, "I figured." Its gaze softened, as if recognizing something familiar in the pup's loneliness. It observed more closely. The little one was too young, for still downy, legs too clumsy to have traveled far. Beneath its thin coat, faint ribs pressed through, a sign of hunger, of days spent without food. "Come with me," the large dog said. It was a command, yet not a demand. The pup froze, tiny paws locked in place, staring up in hesitation. The guardian turned, its eyes unwavering but patient. "I won't say it twice. Stay here, and you won't last the night." The wind picked up, carrying the first bite of twilight's cold. The pup glanced around, the empty field, no food, no shelter, only itself and the stranger who had just saved it. It swallowed hard, then, trembling, took a step forward. Then another. The large dog gave a small nod, as if approving. "Stay close. Keep up." Without another word, it turned and began walking, powerful paws pressing firm tracks into the dry earth. The puppy hurriedly ran after, its short legs struggling to keep up with the long, steady strides of its guide. The journey was slow, not because the larger dog had slowed its pace, but because the puppy was too weak. Night gradually fell, the air turning cold, filled with the chirping of crickets and the distant howls of unseen creatures in the dark. The puppy stayed close, its tiny paws pattering against the ground, occasionally stumbling over roots or small stones. It didn't know where they were going, only that, for the first time since getting lost, it was no longer alone. After what felt like an eternity, with the moon beginning to rise in the sky, the large dog finally stopped. "We're here," it said, its deep voice steady. The puppy looked up, breathing heavily, then turned its head to follow its companion's gaze. Before them stood a small, humble hut, nestled between two massive ancient trees. The wooden walls had faded with time, covered in green moss and fine cracks from years of exposure to the elements. The wooden door hung slightly crooked on rusted hinges, but from inside, a warm glow flickered through the gaps, pushing back the chill of the night. The scent of dry grass lingered in the air, mixed with the faint aroma of meat, something the puppy hadn't smelled in all its days of wandering and hunger. More than anything, this place felt safe, like a refuge in the wilderness. The large dog stepped in first, its towering figure nearly filling the small entrance. The inside was simple, a worn-out blanket crumpled in the corner, a rusted metal bowl near the fire, holding a few scraps of dried meat and white bones. It was no grand home, but to the large dog, this was a shelter. The puppy hesitated at the threshold, its round eyes peering inside with a mix of curiosity and caution. The larger dog turned back, a hint of impatience in its gaze. "Well? Coming in or not?" Its voice wasn't harsh, but firm enough to push the puppy forward. Taking a deep breath, the puppy stepped inside, each movement slow and careful. The warmth from the fire wrapped around it instantly, melting away the lingering chill in its thin fur. It moved closer, sniffing as the scent of food became clearer. Its stomach let out a painful growl, a sharp reminder of the days of hunger. The large dog noticed but said nothing, simply nudging the metal bowl forward. "Eat." The puppy blinked, hesitating before lowering its head to sniff at the dried meat. Cautiously it took a small bite, unsure at first. The meat was tough and dry, but to the starving pup, it was the best thing it had ever tasted. Another bite, then another, its eyes lighting up with satisfaction. The large dog sat by the fire, golden eyes watching in silence. After a while, it let out a quiet sigh, lying down with its head resting on its front paws. "I'll keep watch," it murmured, voice low like a promise. The puppy glanced up, still chewing slowly, curiosity flickering in its gaze. There was something different about this dog, not just a stray, but a warrior who had survived countless dangers. And now, for some reason, it was letting the puppy stay. Finishing the last bite, the pup curled up near the fire, warmth seeping into every fiber of its tiny body. For the first time since waking up in the empty fields, it was no longer afraid. The fire crackled softly, casting dancing shadows on the worn wooden walls, lulling the puppy into a hazy state of comfort. For the first time in days, it wasn't cold. It wasn't hungry. And the loneliness felt distant. Morning light seeped through the cracks in the wooden walls, gently pulling the puppy from its deep sleep. It yawned, stretching its small limbs before looking around. The scent of burnt wood and faint smoke lingered in the air, along with the steady breath of the larger dog, bringing back memories of the night before. The large dog had been awake for some time, sitting near the entrance, its broad shoulders tense, golden eyes scanning the world outside. The puppy stepped closer, shivering slightly at the crisp morning air. The large dog glanced over, silent for a moment before murmuring, "A storm is coming." The puppy tilted its head. "What's a storm?" The large dog huffed, a sound both amused and dry. "You'll find out soon enough." In the distance, thunder rumbled, the sky beyond the treetops darkening, the air growing heavy and damp. The puppy looked up, curiosity sparking in its gaze. "What's your name?" The question slipped out before it could think. The large dog turned, amber eyes briefly unreadable. After a pause, it finally answered. "Ghost." The puppy repeated. "Ghost?" Its voice carried disbelief, as if such a simple name couldn't possibly belong to a creature so strong. Ghost looked away, his gaze drifting toward the forest. "Names don't mean much out here," he muttered. "But that's what I was called. Before." "Before what?" the puppy asked, intrigued. Ghost remained silent, ears twitching slightly before he stood up, stretching his legs. "Come on. We need to find food before the storm hits." The puppy wanted to ask more, but Ghost's firm tone made it stop. Instead, it nodded, quickly trotting after as Ghost stepped out of the hut and into the deep forest. The wind began to pick up, sweeping through the tall trees, carrying the damp scent of the coming rain. Ghost moved like a shadow, silent, controlled, every step deliberate. The little pup struggled to keep up, its short legs stumbling over roots, pebbles, and uneven ground. "Stay close," Ghost warned, his deep voice steady but without turning back. The pup panted, doing its best not to be left behind. Suddenly, Ghost stopped, ears pricking up, nose twitching as he caught a scent. The pup froze, following Ghost's gaze. Ahead, beneath a fallen tree, lay a small rabbit, still, its gray fur still warm. The pup's stomach growled. Ghost glanced over. "Hungry?" The pup nodded quickly, eyes lighting up. Ghost stepped forward, nudging the rabbit with his nose. Eat. The pup hesitated. I don't know how. Ghost remained impassive. You will learn. He waited. The pup swallowed hard, staring at the rabbit. It had never eaten anything raw before, but hunger left no room for hesitation. Tentatively, it took a small bite. The warm, metallic taste spread across its tongue, strange, but not unbearable. It kept eating. And when it was done, it licked its lips, feeling a new strength awaken in its small body. Ghost nodded. You will survive out here, if you're willing to learn. The pup looked up, warmth spreading through its chest. I want to learn. Ghost regarded it for a moment, then, for the first time, the corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but enough for the pup to feel acknowledged. Then let's go, Ghost said. As the storm clouds gathered above, they ventured deeper into the wilderness. The rain began as a soft patter against dry leaves, then quickly turned into nature's fury. The wind howled through the forest, bending branches, lightning splitting the sky with thunder rumbling through the earth. The pup flinched, pressing close to Ghost, its body trembling. Ghost barely reacted. We need to move, he said, his voice cutting through the storm. The rain poured down like a waterfall, soaking their fur, turning the ground into slippery mud. The pup struggled to keep up, slipping and sliding, but Ghost led the way with unwavering calm. Where are we going? The pup called out, its voice nearly lost in the wind. Somewhere safe. Ghost answered without looking back. Through the thick curtain of rain, they faced a pack of prairie wolves, a brutal fight where, for the first time, the pup fought alongside Ghost. Instinct took over, driving them both to survive. After the storm, they found shelter in the hollow of a fallen tree. In the soft morning light, Ghost began teaching the pup how to hunt, how to move silently, how to sense danger. The pup failed many times, but never gave up. Each day, it grew stronger. One moonlit night, the pup asked, Who taught you? Ghost was silent for a long moment before he finally said, My father. He taught me how to fight, to hunt, to survive. Then he left. The pup wanted to ask more, but something in Ghost's distant gaze stopped it. Another night, Ghost disappeared. The pup woke in a panic, following his trail until it found Ghost surrounded by the wolves. Without hesitation, it lunged in, fighting alongside him. Together, they drove the enemies away. When it was over, Ghost turned to the pup, whispering, You did well, kid. They returned to their shelter, walking side by side under the moonlight. A bond had formed, not just that of survival, but something deeper. The pup was no longer lost, it had found strength, purpose, and a mentor. A family in Ghost. And this was only the beginning of their journey. As dawn broke, the small shepherd pup stood beside Ghost on a hill, gazing down at the forest that had tested them. Its once soft fur, now roughened by mud and battles, ruffled slightly in the morning breeze. The round eyes that had once held only fear now gleamed with newfound confidence, still innocent, but stronger. Beside it, Ghost stood firm, his towering form a silent guardian. His golden eyes, once sharp with caution, now held a rare gentleness, as if he saw a reflection of his younger self in the pup. They had faced the darkest nights together, raven-filled fields, raging storms, battles against the wild. Ghost had saved the pup from the brink of death, but the pup, with its small but fierce heart, had unknowingly saved Ghost from a loneliness he had long accepted as his fate. Now they were not just two survivors of the wild. They were family. The pup glanced up, voice soft but certain. Will I be as strong as you, Ghost? Ghost was silent for a moment, then bent down, touching his nose gently to the pup's forehead, a rare gesture of warmth from a warrior who had known only hardship. You already are, he murmured. And you will be even stronger. Far off, birds began to sing, welcoming a new day after the storm. The pup took a deep breath, chest swelling with pride. It was no longer a lost, trembling pup in an empty field. It had found a home, not in the old wooden hut, but in Ghost's presence, in a friendship that had weathered every trial. Ghost turned, walking down the hill? The pup followed, its small paws steady, unwavering. Together, they disappeared into the morning light, their shadows stretching long across the earth, a promise that no matter how harsh the world became, they would always have each other. Their story was not just about survival. It was proof that even in the darkest times, friendship and hope could light the way forward. The pup had found its light in Ghost. And Ghost, after years of solitude, had found a reason to keep moving forward. If this journey has touched your heart, remember, heroes don't always need grand words or golden crowns. Sometimes, all they need are 4 paws, a fearless heart, and a companion to walk through the storm with them. So cherish the bonds that make life extraordinary, and never forget, even the smallest souls can change the world.